Yes, people. United State of Mind is back on Pros Only Sports, and I'm excited to bring this new season in with this video. Obviously, it's international break right now, so there have been 3 league games for us to be able to watch, dissect, break down, analyze, and all of that kind of stuff right there. Last year, I was like, after a few games, I put a couple of videos out, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this, man. I just can't do it because the players themselves aren't putting in the effort. For me to be coming out here trying to do analysis and all of that, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, man. I can't. So I was just watching along, just like everybody else. And the season ended how it ended. Obviously, we got the FA Cup, but 8th place in the league. Yeah, I'm cool. The way we went out of the Champions League, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But Ineos have come in, taking a stake in the club. They're controlling the sporting direction, and it's bringing a bit of optimism for me, based on what I've seen already so far. Transfer window's closed now, so we can actually see what they've been able to bring to the table. And obviously, I think there's a bit of a stars of aligning kind of thing happening where they've come in at a really good time, where the squad is really probably in the best shape it's been in a very long time. Now we have to see whether the fruits of that will bear over the next season and beyond, right? With them kind of in charge of the sporting direction of the club. So we'll see what happens there. But look, I wanted to get this video out just to analyze, or just to give you my thoughts on the first 3 games of the season, and then maybe go into a little bit of discussion, a bit more surrounding what Ineos are trying to implement, and how basically we can get ourselves right back to the top of English football, world football, whatever. But yeah, before I do anything, people, make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe button as well. If you're new, hit the notification bell as well, because I'm going to be trying to drop at least 1 video a week. I'm going to be very consistent. I'm saying this to myself. I put the roadmap in. I was like, yep, over the next year, you've got to be mad consistent. So at least one video a week in regards to United. And then obviously all the other stuff you'll be seeing on the channel when basketball season comes along, and the reboot as well. I'm going to try and get one out over this international break as well. I have 1 episode already done. I just need to send it off to the editor. But apart from that, yeah, you're going to get some good content on the channel this season. But look, there's only one place to start, right? Like, let's start through these first 3. Well, no, actually, let's start here. New season has started. Before the season started, there was a fresh optimism, right? Because you have the sporting interest in control by Ineos. And for me, I'm like, okay, finally, we have footballing people that actually are going to be controlling the sporting interest of the club now. It's not this kind of mishmash of like people who don't have the experience or expertise that are going to be here making the decisions on the footballing side, and then they overspend or not make the right choices in terms of players, and then we're kind of going down that same path again. This time you've got experienced people, we've got them in a good time, and they've been able to help with the overseeing of the transfer window. So I mean, and this is like a big moment in United's history, because we haven't been able to have a structure around any manager post Fergie. Fergie's structure was a bit different, obviously, with him, David Gill, and then Martin Ferguson, which is his brother, the chief scout. Since then, we've just kind of had a very, I'd say, very loose structure. It's been very like handpicked in certain places. People have come in and had to leave and all of this type of stuff. Finally, a manager has a structure behind him that looks like it's going to be there for the foreseeable future. And of course, there's always going to be moving parts. People will leave the job and then have to be replaced. But I'm excited to see that now there's a structure in place. So regardless of who the manager is going to be in the future, there'll be something there for them to work with. You know what I mean? Obviously, the new signings into the squad as well. So obviously, the transfer window has closed now. So if I'm going to just walk it back in terms of the first team and even youth level signings that could potentially be included as first team players in the next year or 2. So obviously we have the Ligt, Lenny Yoro, Nusser Mazraoui. You have Ugarte, who came in on deadline day. You have Chido Obi Martin, who they brought in from Arsenal, I believe. I feel like he rejected his contract to Arsenal and he's coming to United. And then Sekou Kone. So, you know, you can see a bit of a mixture of youth experience kind of in there, like, and then obviously some highly rated talents in there as well. So it's like, it's a pretty solid window, I think, you know, like addressed some areas in the squad. I feel like, you know, we're still expecting a greater level from some of the players already in the squad, but we've addressed some we've addressed some of the problem areas. I would say midfield was one of them. Maybe looking for an extra midfielder, but you never know what could happen. There's free market, free agency markets out there, so you never know what could happen. So I feel like we addressed that. The right back situation, obviously Wan-Bissaka, our first choice right back, has gone. Dalot had a really good season last year, but ultimately I think he's squad level. I don't think he's starter capability, right? So Mazraoui's come in first 3 games, he looks solid, like both ends. So that's good. Bringing in some significant centre back cover now. So because you can't have a Johnny Evans like as your last like, because there was a lot of injuries last season and he was playing a lot of games, and then Maguire obviously is not really in the team anymore like that. So bringing in Euro and then obviously De Ligt with Martinez, and I think there's going to be an interesting situation where Martinez potentially goes centre back when Euro's fit. Euro plays alongside De Ligt, so he gets his experience. De Ligt gets his opportunity, and then Martinez will fill in at left back. That's a potential. I don't know, but it looks like it could be heading that way because of the unreliability we have in Luke Shaw in terms of his fitness. But yeah, that's interesting. So those new signings into the squad have helped shaping, and then we've had a lot of outgoings as well. In terms of some of the major ones, I won't run through a lot, but there was a lot of them. So obviously Martial free agent. Sancho leaving on deadline day, going to Chelsea, and it's now it's going to be permanent regardless. They have an obligation to buy. No option there. Obviously McTominay as well, deadline day as well. He's left. So there's a few of those. I'm just trying to think if there's any other major ones that left the team. Oh, I forgot one incoming as well. Joshua Zirkzee as well. I forgot about him as well. But yeah, in terms of outgoings, let's see. Anyway, yeah, there was a lot of outgoings. Too many to name. I'll probably put them on the screen anyway for you. But yeah, the squad has been reshaped again, and it kind of messes up a bit of the continuity aspects, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. With more faces coming in and more faces leaving, different choices and different kind of like synergies, and people having to like really settle into a new country, new role, all of this type of stuff. It's very disruptive. I can't lie. It is like, you want a very strict churn of amount of players out and the amount of players in. For the last, I don't even know, 12 years, it's been so sporadic. You might get 6 first team players in here, and then you get 8 people leaving. Some are first team, some are fringe. It's chaotic, but I'll touch on that a bit later. Just looking at the targets for the season, I believe after winning 2 domestic cups in the 2 previous seasons, and obviously trying to improve on last season's 8th place finish, I think the expectation would be to try and get back into the Champions League again. So a top 4 race is something that, if you're being realistic here as a United fan, we're not really anywhere close to challenging. I think the first 3 games kind of told you that a little bit. You never know what could happen. Obviously, it's a lot of football to be played, no panic. But maybe we're not quite at the level of Arsenal and City just yet. We'll have to wait. But our top 4 race is there. It's just about making sure you collect your points as and when you get them, right? And then I think we can go again for another trophy again. I'm thinking more Europa League this time. I think there's the safety of the fact that if you win the competition, you get an automatic spot into the Champions League. That doesn't mean you should slip up in terms of your actual league position, but I would definitely go for that. And obviously, like, the competition is no longer like, it's viewed as a premier competition now. A few years ago, the Europa League, people were saying it was a secondary competition, but when you look at some of the winners of the competition over the last few years, and then the amount of competition now, like, it's one that you have to win. And I feel like for United, having competed in it quite a lot of the years over the last 12 years, the fact that we only won it once is kind of bad. So it's like, we've struggled in the Champions League because we're not clearly at that level, but we are clearly at the Europa League level. And the fact that we haven't won it more than once since 2017 is pretty bad. So we really need to step up our game in that competition, and hopefully this year will be the year for United. But I think, yeah, the target for the season should be a top 4. Top 4, you have to get into the top 4 Champions League berth or win the Europa League, but try and do both if you can. Squad is it's kind of okay. It's not super deep. Hopefully we don't have the biggest kind of injury crisis, because otherwise it will just really affect your campaigns in all those competitions, to be honest, as you get later on into it. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that there in terms of the targets for the season. But let's talk about these first 3 games of the season. I'm just gonna be very light touch. Having watched the first game and second games back, I haven't really watched I was watching the Liverpool game pretty I was really focused in on it. So I'm not so sure. But I'm gonna keep it quite light touch. Some of the stuff that I really noticed, and then we'll get into the discussion at the end about just how do we climb that mountain whilst also trying to get results, and then all the regular stuff that comes with that. But yeah, so I mean, first game obviously against Fulham, get the 1-0 win. You could tell that the team was very nervous in the beginning, the first 20 minutes, because of the fact it's a new season. There's a lot to prove. And you're home, like, you don't want to lose that home game. Like, do you know what I mean? You don't want to struggle. You want to put in a good performance. So you could tell there was a bit of nervousness, but they did settle down. And the one thing I liked seeing from the team was that high press, that high block, which is a component of the way Ten Hag wants to play. And this is the thing that annoys me the most, right? People are saying that there's no style of play. The style of play has been very clear. The whole 3 years, I've seen it. I've just not seen it consistently enough. So I want people to go back to Galatasaray away last season. I think we lose that game 4-3, or was it a 3-3 draw? I can't remember. I think it was 3-3. That third goal, if you go back and watch it, it's a typical Ten Hag goal, because it's similar. It's got a similar cadence to the goals he was scoring. His teams were scoring for Ajax. It was very quick movement of the ball up the field to get into that position to score. We've seen a lot of this style of play, but it's been so sporadically across the whole 3-year tenure, right? So I don't like the discussions when if you don't like the manager, you can't say he doesn't have a style of play. Then it's very clear. The issue is we can't sustain it long enough in games, and we can't sustain it long enough through periods of the seasons and stuff like that. So that's the issue, and that's what they have to address. But yeah, that high press, high block, you saw Bruno Mount, Ahmad and Mainu specifically, they were really engaged in that high press, right? And what that did was it was creating a lot of turnovers, right, which allowed us to be able to get chances, right? And after that first 20 minutes, we were getting a lot of chances. They were shaking off a bit of that rustiness. I mean, Bruno was rusty, but a lot of them would have been rusty coming back from especially the ones that went to the Euros or the Copa America. They would have been rusty coming back because they didn't have a lot of preseason training. Preseason training is about 6 weeks. Some of them probably only had 2. So, I was kind of surprised seeing Mainu kind of start first game, because it's he's had a breakthrough season. He's been going full tilt from March of this year right through to the Euros. Hardly had any rest, had his holidays, come back a couple weeks training, and he's straight into the first team. I don't want him to burn out. That's the worry I have. But I guess needs must, he has to be in there, right? So yeah. So we created a few chances, to be honest, after that first 20 minutes, once they've settled down. And then go into the second half, Fulham come back into the game. Then the game becomes a bit stagnant, and then there's changes for both teams. And this is required because, fatigue has settled in for both teams and the different players. And then as the subs are made, it injects more into the attack for United. And then, we have a bit more of a shape, a better focal point with Xerxes coming in, with Mount going out. And now there's an ability to occupy centre-backs rather than people kind of getting into the same zones and not occupying the centre-backs to be able to allow for spaces to open up for runs to be happening from midfield and from wide. So, Xerxes gets his goal, and you can see his impact straight away in terms of, you can see in that short cameo that he had against Fulham, you can see what he's going to offer his team. The problem I think for him is he's going to have to really get up to speed fitness-wise to be able to be in the Premier League. So he needs to lean out a little bit. I think he's just a bit too bulky. So he may have to lean out a little bit. And so I think a few more games will get him right up to speed. But but he gets his goal. So obviously he gets that kind of settled feeling. You get a goal, you don't get people on your back. He seems like he's someone he's very intelligent in terms of his movement. So he looks like he's gonna get into the right zones to be able to get opportunities. So that's good. And overall, it was a good win, 3 points. And then obviously just like the press part of the system looked great. Like it was sharp from day one. It was sharp. And for me, I was thinking, okay, you need to keep that intensity, right? And obviously, rotation throughout the season is going to be key. So many different combinations. If you trust your squad, which I think now the squad is in its best shape it's been since Ten Hag has been here. Probably the best shape the team has been in a long time, to be fair, in these last 12 years post Fergie. Rotation is key. So in any kind of ways where you can rotate, you do it. And I think that's good. And that's the thing. I think some of it's already begun. Like, you know, unfortunately, and we'll get into it. You know, there's already an injury to this. There's already an injury from the start of the season anyway. But you know, it is what it is. But I think the players are still getting up to speed. At that point, I think the players were looking to get up to speed, and we won't really see them get up to speed until 6 to 10 games in, from what I can see. But let's move on to the second game. Obviously, it's the Brighton game. Now we lose that game 2-1. Now, once again, the same theme from the first game carries on into the second game. That pressing, high block, high press, the defensive structure, it continues to improve. Right, the whole team is pressing as a unit. They're pressing well. They're moving up and down the pitch collectively. Like in that game against Brighton, we weren't really susceptible to the counter attacks that we were seeing a lot of last season. When in transition, there's big gaps between the rest defense and the players that were in were in on the attack in that particular moment. Right. So just on that, it's like, the theme is there, but then it just dissipates after 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And that's the issue. I just can't understand for the life of me why the team can't continue to sustain that press for a larger majority of the game. I'm not saying you're going to be pressing the whole 90 minutes, because you're hoping that through some of your actions on the press now, what happens? You'll get a couple of goals. You can settle. You start moving the ball around. There's more confidence. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, as long as you're keeping possession of the ball, you're not wasteful, you can continue to add on top of that. That's what is supposed to be happening, right? You're not going to be pressing fully on 90 minutes, not having the ball type of thing. Like, there's going to be rest moments within that, but it's really based on what actions you take when you get those chances. But United were wasteful in that first half too. Like there was a lot of poor execution in the final third. There was a lot of misplaced passes, mistimed runs, running offside. So just being wasteful, and so obviously you miss out on all those opportunities that you created through pressing and creating those turnovers. Like, second half comes round. Well, before that, obviously Brighton score, and obviously it's a defensive mistake. And the story of the Brighton game is 2 defensive mistakes. People were speaking about we were getting outplayed, and from me watching the game, no, we were wasteful, and then we had 2 big errors that led to goals, and that was the story of the game for me. And if you disagree, let me know in the comments. But that first goal that Welbeck scores, obviously the cross comes in, and I think first and foremost, you block the cross. You have to stop the cross. If the ball goes by you, your defenders have to react. So Harry Maguire didn't react. He lets the ball run across him. That's a rookie mistake, because there will always be somebody behind you. Even if you have a defender there, it's your responsibility as soon as you see the ball. He lets the ball run across, and then obviously Martinez is anticipating his defender to clear the ball. He's not looking over his shoulder for the man running across this front, and that was Welbeck. So both of them make key errors there, to be able to back each other up. And that's one of the things that I think this United team struggles with, right? Your teammates aren't backing you up at every opportunity. That's what you need to do. You need to fight for each other. That's a very key thing when you're playing a team sport. Everybody needs to fight for each other. Everybody needs to communicate with each other. Too many times people are feeling or looking very isolated out there on the pitch. There's the reason why we have a lot of defensive errors or mistakes. You know what I'm saying? So second half come through, United are getting into a rhythm, like they're passing the ball really well, creating chances. And then Ahmad gets the equalizer. And for Ahmad, in that game, didn't have the best of games. I think I was maybe a bit too harsh when I was reacting to it, like just real time when I was watching the game. when you realize the day before he got the news that his mother had passed away. So a very difficult situation to be in, and then he has to play, or he's been told he's playing in the game, and of course he's never going to turn that down, right? Like somebody who hasn't had many opportunities under this manager in this team since he's moved from Atalanta, so he's not turning down an opportunity to play. He was a bit off his game. He gets his goal, obviously celebrates, dedicates it to his mum, and then he comes off the pitch. Also, another key thing to note: Mason Mount goes up at half-time as well. Injury. We later find out it's a hamstring injury, and that's not good because I think he's been really good to start the season. I think there's a lot of anger surrounding the Mason Mount transfer because of the money that we spent. But I think for what we're trying to do, he's very crucial. And it's not to say that he's going to be starting every game. But if we're talking about rotating, if we're talking about keeping players fresh, if we're talking about injecting energy into games, if he starts games, you're starting off with the right energy. If the team is not producing the same level of energy on the press that you need, and he's on the bench, you can bring him on. Right now, there's a situation where Marcus Rashford is not looking like himself, and like there may be a choice that would have to be made a little bit down the line, very quickly even. And the thing about it is it's a bit of a difficult one because if Mount was there, he should be taking that left wing spot. Not to say he's going to offer the same thing as Rashford, but when you see him on the pitch with the press, it's really active. And now you're having it on all parts of the front three, as opposed to two of them being backed up by the 10 and then someone in midfield. Now it's not lopsided, the press. It's very it's symmetrical, right? So I'm hoping that something happens. I don't want Rashford to be out of the team because he offers a lot when he's there, right? But a choice may have to be made very, very soon. So yeah, but so the Mount situation, that's not good for the team because now you've lost somebody who's pretty crucial to the system and the way it's carried out. But yeah, Ama gets his goal, and then we're unlucky to get the second goal. Obviously, Garnacho's shot comes off of Xerxes' knee and it's ruled offside via the VAR. And I was just like, if he just ducked, moved his knee, not even ran for it, like it's a goal. And then the conversation is different. We defend that 2-1 lead or whatever happens, but we're in front. And then we get right through to the end of the game, and another defensive mistake happens. And this is, I believe it was a Brighton corner, was cleared by United, but it lands at the feet of Adingra. And then in the first instance, Anthony is there. He should be sprinting out and trying to stop the cross. Don't take him out because you're giving them a set piece, but you could defend. You could back your defenders to defend it, but try and stop that cross if you can. He doesn't. Ball's crossing to the box. The reason why that João Pedro had the space and time to be able to take a touch and then finish is because McTominay left the zone in which he could have reacted to João Pedro's and two other players of Brighton being free. He was so drawn to the ball, despite the fact that there were 4 players in front of him, and so ultimately left that zone, which gave that space to João Pedro to score the winner. So 2 defensive mistakes have cost United the game. And it's not a thing of we were outplayed by Brighton. We weren't. It just wasn't like that. I feel like people have already made up their mind about the manager, not liking the fact that he's staying. And so any loss is going to be down to him. And sometimes we have to look at the players. That's all I'll say. So look, based off of that, the first 2 games, I wasn't really worried about the start, to be honest with you. United looked better already than last season based off those 2 games. And, I was just thinking players are just getting up to speed with fitness. And our best 11 hasn't been out there on the pitch just yet, in terms of everybody fully fit, ready to go. So not really worried about it. And to be fair, talking about this next game against Liverpool, even after the result, not really worried. It's 3 games. People are panicking already, but that's them. I'm not gonna panic because this thing is gonna take the thing that people want. People don't realize it's going to take time to get there, serious time, and you have to be patient. But I'll discuss that at the end of the video. So Liverpool game against your biggest rivals, you lose 3-0 at home. It's not good. But once again, the biggest theme of it is errors, individual mistakes and errors, right? So Once again, the same theme happens. First 20 minutes of the game plan seems intact. The pressing, the movement of the ball, it's all there, like comfortable, right? Just can't capitalize on that early pressure that you put onto Liverpool. Then Liverpool get like one of their first real attacks, and then so this is our goal from Trent. Some breakdown in communication with United's defense, and then Casemiro makes a mistake. Dawdles on the ball instead of releasing it, and this made me think. Right, in Ten Hag's Ajax sides, he had Frankie De Jong, a one-of-one type of player in that deep play in that deep position, who was able to carry the ball. Imagine if we was able to secure Frankie De Jong at that time, or get somebody in a similar mold, somebody that can carry the ball. I was thinking back, I'm like, United haven't really had a ball carrier from that kind of position since Paul Pogba. I don't want to get into the whole, Pogba's situation because it's done now. I've seen the past. We didn't capitalize having such a player in United's kind of ranks, and maybe he didn't want to be there as well, so that's why it just ended the way it did. But having a ball carrier in that position avoids the indecision from a player in that position, right? Like, he was looking up, trying to make a pass, not realizing that there's another 11 on the pitch. Somebody's gonna tackle you if you don't get rid of the ball quick enough. So he makes an error there. He loses the ball, and then Luis Diaz gets the first goal for Liverpool. And then the second goal for Liverpool comes from another Casemiro mistake where he passes the ball into nobody, and it goes to Liverpool, and then they're able to score. Now, one mistake you can forgive. Compounding that with a second mistake, I can't forgive, especially with the most experienced player in our team on the pitch. And I don't really we'll speak about what his wife did afterwards and the discussion surrounding him in this team, and all of that. The position that he plays is problematic. We saw that last season. For the way that the manager, the coach, and the coaching staff want to play, him playing in that position, he's just incapable of doing it. Because you're wanting your six essentially to join the press and then be able to cover ground in transition if we lose the ball. And he's incapable of doing it. It happened so many times last season, right? And so Manuel Ugarte coming in, I don't know if that really changes anything, because I'd like to see what his ground coverage is like. Because if he's somebody that's going to be willing to do it, that's a good thing. That means you have buy-in. A player's come in, he's not necessarily that kind of player, but he's willing to give everything. If he's that kind of player, great. No problem with that. Because then it can offset some of the other attributes that you may expect from somebody in that position, which would maybe be ball carrying. I wonder if there's any clips, maybe the last 25 actions of ball carrying from Manuel Ugarte. If anyone could even give me something in my DM or something to be able to watch it, I would be grateful for it. Because to be honest with you, I don't know if he has that ability. But if he has the other ability, which is the ability to cover ground, or the willingness to cover ground, because really and truly, you're pressing, you're running, it's really willingness to do it. It's not an attribute. Everybody has the ability to do it. It's just whether they want to or not. Whether the system that they're playing allows them to do or not. Your first instinct when you don't have the ball should be trying to win the ball back. If you put in that effort, it translates throughout the whole team. If everybody thinks that way, then the press works. That's how I see it, right? That's very simple. But anyway, but then going back to Casemiro, the expectations of him in this team, I'm expecting him, after the first mistake, to calm himself down, to calm the rest of the team down. Keep it simple, 5-10 minutes, so you can try and work your way back into the game. Because if you go into the I think, did we go into first half? I think we went to the first half 2-0 down, or was it 1-0 down? Either way, it doesn't matter. Like, the key thing is you calm yourself down, you calm your teammates down, keep it simple, 5-10 minutes, and try and work your way back into the game. Maybe get yourself an opportunity or two to just bring the confidence back up. He makes 2 mistakes, and rightly so. You half time. You have to leave. So I think it was 2-0 down at half time. So you make your 2 mistakes, you have to leave at half time because you clearly haven't gotten over the first one. It's not to say that he won't ever get over it, but in that game, he was basically done. And I think at that point, it was an uphill struggle for United at that point. So, just going, I'm expecting for him to be a leader, because everyone loves to talk about his achievements in football, that's not helping you on in that particular moment. It's great to reminisce about, but in that particular moment, your leadership is the most important attribute, and it wasn't there. It was lacking. So, whilst I could commend his wife going on social media and posting the trophies and stuff and the medals and whatnot, like, great, you have a wife that will defend you even though you're wrong, right? So a lot of men will want that. In this instance, it's not relevant to the conversation, right? Like, he made 2 mistakes. He's the most experienced player on our team, the most decorated player on our team. I'm expecting him to calm himself down, calm his teammates down, and communicate and tell people to keep things simple. He didn't do that. So, that's null and void, right? And obviously with that, he comes out the game, so now he's even less experience on the pitch. Toby Collier comes in, makes his debut for the club in a senior sense, and then Kobbie Mainoo makes a mistake, at least in the third goal. And then it made me think, right, with regard to Ugarte signing, is there an opportunity to maybe give Kobbie Mainoo a bit of a rest, because he's had quite the introduction to football over the last 7 months, right, where he's not really rested at all. And I'm looking at Mainoo and I'm like, maybe not this mistake. This mistake is just a one-off, like, it's just a lack of communication, just facing the wrong way when receiving the ball. So you're more susceptible to people pressing you if you can't really see what's going on behind you. But I really worry about whether I worry about the development of him, right? Like, I like the fact that Ugarte's come in and Casemiro's still there. So, I'd rather see them two pairing up, where Ugarte will play as the 6, and then a little bit in the pivot with him is Casemiro, and then Mainoo get some chances to sit out, rest, because we want to manage his development carefully. I don't want him to get to 26, 27 years old and then be burnt out after nearly 500 games for the club, because this is the situation that Rashford is in. Rashford was basically, from the moment he came in, started scoring all those goals, and then we put him right at the top of the pedestal and said, you are the man to take us forward. And he's approaching 500 games now. It's about 420, I think it is. And he looks a shell of himself. And that's the thing I worry about with Mainoo. I would like to see him maybe take some games out, come off the bench. So at least then you're learning from a different perspective, where, okay, we might be chasing a game. What do I need to do to be able to impact that? Or we have a lead. What do I need to do to make sure that we keep that lead? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's good to throw young players into those kind of scenarios, because they'll be able to it helps their development, essentially, right? But yeah, 3-0, game was over. Liverpool were toying with us, like, towards the end of the game. So it was just like, it is what it is. You kind of have to chalk it up to, I feel like they've there's a lot that you can speak about with Liverpool, like, that contributes to the fact that they were able to come to Old Trafford and do what they did, right? And I'll speak about that in a little bit, right? But fair play, they got their 3 points, and their fans had a great weekend, and we didn't. Just one thing to speak about in terms of the game: Xerxes had 2 big chances that he missed, and I still feel like he looks off the pace. He's still getting up to speed in terms of his fitness, so that will come with time. I'm hoping that in this international break, that players come back unscathed, because I'm really worried about that. Because after all of the injuries that happened last year, and people have tried to attribute it to the training methods, but training, it can happen in so many different ways. You just don't even know. Like, I'm just hoping that, Xerxes comes back from international break a little bit more up to speed with fitness, and then he'll be able to contribute a lot more of what we know, what I've already seen that he can do. But yeah, let me talk about the Liverpool situation, because obviously a lot of people have tried to use Arne Slot's kind of tenure, 3 games in, and then even the Brighton manager Hertzler, he's only had 3 games or 2 games, and they beat Ten Hag, and he's been there for all this time. I think people need to understand that Liverpool have continuity. So look at their squad, right? You have Salah, Van Dijk, Trent, Who else? Salah, Van Dijk, Trent, Robertson. Alisson's been there for quite some time. there's a core group of players that have been there for a long time under Klopp. So it's like that continuity is so key, right? And then you look behind the scenes, right? Whilst problematic at times in terms of the ownership situation, they have had a structure. So it's easy for a manager to come in from wherever, right? He can have a particular style of play. And then let's not forget, Liverpool have a lot of talented players. They're not scrubs. So they're going to have the ability to play a style that is suitable to many attributes, right? That all of these players have. So he can come in, and the key thing is he has ideas, he relays them to the team, they have to buy in. And if they buy in, things gel. They've won their first 3 games. I don't know if this is going to be the start of them challenging for a title. It could go all left. We don't know, right? Because their squad's good, like to a certain point, and then maybe at that point it's not that good if injuries start to creep up. So we'll see how that goes, right? But they've got players that are, well, let's start again. So they have continuity in players, they have continuity behind the scenes in terms of their structure. Their players are connected on the pitch. They fight for one another. That's something that I think we're missing at United still. And I'm hoping that bringing in some more players that are familiar with each other and have the right attitude. You hear in the way Ugarte speaking, I'm loving it. He's saying, I'm fighting for everything, right? You want players like that. We had an Ander Herrera who was like that. Like, you want players, or the majority of players, to be like that, because in the hardest moments when they're facing adversity, that's the key thing is they're going to fight for each other. And them fighting for each other means that they're going to get results. You know what I'm saying? So Liverpool have that. So a manager can come in from anywhere. Nobody knew who this guy was like that. Like, he's not really a well-known like manager like that, but he's come in and he's got his ideas across. They've all brought in because they're all talented and there's continuity there. It's not a bunch of new players that are now having to figure out how to do certain things, right? They all know what to do. They all know each other. They've worked with each other for so long. So, that's it. The key thing is that they've got continuity and structure. So you can't compare that with a United team where constantly, season after season, players coming in and players leaving, players coming in and players leaving. It's 4 or 5, 6 players coming in every summer with 8 or 9 leaving. You're messing up that continuity. But I think this is something that's going to be fixed now with Ineos in charge. And now it kind of leads on to this discussion that I have about us getting back to the top. I'm going to wrap it up here. I know it's a long video, but hey, you have to, for the return, you need a nice little documentary, you know what I'm saying? Documentary stuff. But anyway, so how do we get back to the top of English football? How do we get to the top of the world, right? Like, people need to understand that this is a very difficult thing to do. I've seen it with teams over the years. Like, the problem with United is that it's always been a false dawn because we just haven't had the setup right. And I think with Ineos now, with the structure that they've put behind that manager, and the thing about it is, I'm not really an in or out kind of guy anymore. After the Oli situation, where like I was like, yeah, I don't think he's experienced enough to be able to take us where we need to go. He's probably the guy before the guy. I'm never gonna do that again because I understand that, a manager is a moving part, just like players. So, in terms of what the club needs to do to get back to the top, in my opinion, right, you're building a long-term spine. And what I mentioned before is that I feel like the team is in the best position to start to do that. Look at the young players in the squad, right? So you have to earmark players to kind of get you to that position. Earmark players that are going to be the mainstay for the next 5 to 10 years that will allow you to build that continuity, right? Especially on the pitch. Because the manager doesn't necessarily need to be long-term like that. 3-year, 4-year cycle is fine, like depending on what kind of results they get and whatnot. Yeah, but players-wise, that's key, right? So when I look at this current squad, you've got Kobe Mainoo, you've got Garnacho. There's been a significant investment in Lenny Yoro, so I can't wait to see how he comes into the team and how he settles in. Ahmad, whilst very talented, but maybe not as part of the manager's plans. I think the club not entertaining anything for him and saying that, yeah, we trust you, we want you to be a part of this. He's going to be part of it, right? Xerxes, Hoyland. Not to say, like, obviously all these players may not start all the time or whatever, like, but they're there, like, they're young, so you have something to mold with them. You can really build continuity with these guys, right? And then Sekou Kone, who they've also, they've apparently extensively scouted, and then obviously Ineos have made the move to bring him in. And then Chido Obi Martin, the striker, young striker from Arsenal that they've brought in. That's a good collection of players that you can hang your hat on. Maybe 4 or 5 of them to be the mainstay, because maybe not all of them will work out, but because you never know how it goes in a young person's career, right? But they're hanging their hat on 4 or 5 of them to be the faces of this team for the next 5 to 10 years. So once you've earmarked those players as the future faces of the club, right, you now have to tweak the moving parts to suit those players, right? So all of these different players we've seen coming in are going to be part of the team for X amount of time, and then they'll have to leave and you replace them. Certain players are on different timelines. So you look at players like Casemiro, Bruno, they're kind of on the ending part of the timeline. You don't know how long they're going to have with this team and whether things are going to change in the near future. Someone like Rashford is approaching that place now, right? Where you're looking at him and you're saying, is this person going to contribute to what we're looking for in the next 2 to 3 years? The manager, the coaching staff, like, these are all moving parts. So for you people that are in or out, you kind of have to look at it as very fluid. Like, the manager will be here if he can take the team with that core group to a certain ceiling, and he can't penetrate beyond that ceiling, then the manager will have to go and somebody else will have to come in. So that's how you need to think about it. Thinking about it too short-termy is gonna drive you crazy, because you can see what happened. People were already calling for a sack after the Brighton game, and they were saying that we were getting outplayed, but even though we weren't, like, it was just 2 defensive mistakes. Just need to clean up those things, right? The third game, yeah, you can say it's a bit more different, but once again, there was mistakes that led to goals. It's just simple stuff, right? But hey, that's you. Everyone will have their opinion. Like, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to give you some extra information, and you can use this if you want to, right? But yeah, going back to it, right? So once you get the continuity now, right, with those key players, then the moving parts should be easy, and I trust the structure behind the team to be able to make those moving parts work with that core group of players that you want to keep for that continuity. I'll say this, right? Fans need to understand that this is going to take a lot of time. You have to be patient. Like, this is probably a 5 or 10 year plan. You're looking at first 5 years, establish what you want. What are the targets? Where are we going? Can we improve incrementally year on year, right? Effectively, Ten Hag is in year 1 of, like, him being at Manchester United in my eyes, right? Because he's the first manager out of all of the managers that we've seen, right, at United post Fergie, that has a structure, a proper footballing structure, which some fans have been calling for, a lot of fans have been calling for. This is effectively year 1. I just want to remind people of something first before I wrap this up, right? The fact that no manager has been able to go beyond 3 seasons at the club, right? The fact that we've had managers that have had pedigree, maybe not Oli, because, like, I feel like he won a title with Molde, but that's still not, like, the pedigree to the other managers, right, that came to the club. But the other managers that came to the club had a level of pedigree. You cannot tell me that those managers with pedigree have come to Manchester United and all of a sudden become rubbish managers. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. And remember what Jim Radcliffe said when they were interviewing after the Ineos took a stake in the club? It's not necessarily the manager, because he said there's been great managers that have come there. Of course, it's debatable, like, because Louis van Gaal, he was kind of washed when he came, right? Moyes was a good manager, but that wasn't the level that he needed to come in at, right? And Ten Hag was 2-3 years ago was one of the most sought after managers in Europe. There were United fans who were calling for his head now that wanted him to be the manager 3 years ago, or more than 3 years ago, right? So it's a fishy one, man. People need to relax. Like, the environment's not right. You have to set standards. I feel like Ten Hag was trying to do that last season, but you need help, you need backup, man. So having a structure in there now, they're saying these are the standards, and you all have to meet this, because if we don't meet this, we won't win in future. That's the key. So I will say to fans, please be patient. I know this was a long one, but enjoy it. And I'm back for the season. I'm just going to be not really match reaction type stuff, just topical things that I kind of come up with to be able to discuss. One video, maybe two, once Champions League. Hey, we're not in the Champions League. Europa is back. And then yeah, all the other content is gonna be rolling. I've got my roadmap settled, so now I know the clear vision in it. So we're good in terms of what we're doing on Pros Only Sports. But people, I do want to say thank you. I appreciate everyone who's been like checking in on me and things of that nature. I see it. So thank you very much. Appreciate the love. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe button on this video. And then yeah, share it out as well, because I'm trying to do some stuff, okay, this season anyway. And I'll be back with another video quite soon, to be fair, because I want to talk about some other stuff, just kind of away from game related type of stuff too, but always about United. Make sure you stay tuned to United State of Mind for this season. We're out, people. Peace.